Hello YouTube, it's been a while, but it's Corgi here again, and this time I'm tackling Drakantos, which is a free-to-play MMORPG with a very beautiful pixel art style. I'm not really running a script for this one, I just really wanted to give my honest pros and cons about this game. I've been able to play all 3 days for the closed beta test, and I just kind of want to ad-lib how I'm feeling because it pretty much describes how I really feel about the game right now. There's a lot of potential with this game, but there's also a lot of things going wrong with it, right? And so I'll do the best I can to kind of tackle this in a organized manner, but you know, don't be surprised if I go off course or whatever the case may be. And it's not too much to ask for a small YouTube channel, but please, I would really appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe. Just about to hit the 300 mark, so I really appreciate it if you guys show that love and support. And no more wasting time, let's get right into it. So I won't really touch too much on the story. It's your pretty average cut and dry. You select your hero and then they end up in the Adventurers Guild and they have to basically rank their way up the guild system. And in order to rank up, you need to make sure you hit a certain gear score level, or it's called power in this case. And you can level up this power by obtaining better equipment and or smelting and reinforcing your current existing equipment. And then of course the primary gameplay loop is finishing quests and doing the adventures to get higher gear so that you can access harder quests and harder missions to get more better gear. And that is essentially the gameplay loop of the closed beta test. Okay, so let's talk about some of the good things about this closed beta test. This game looks absolutely beautiful and stunning. The pixel art is eye-catching and it absolutely fits the vibe of the old school RPGs. No, I'm not talking about Iris and Rhea only, okay? Keep your Gooner boys in check, whatever the case may be. But everything else in this game looks phenomenal. Yeah, the animation team really did great on this one. The animations look nice, they sound great, and they definitely nail that old school RPG vibe. Yeah, the soundtrack is also okay too. I wish it was just a little bit more memorable. It's not really impactful during the fights, and it just ends up being a little forgettable. I wish they would really amp up the music. And now, I don't know if any of the developers are going to be watching this video, but that is the only 2 pros that I would really give about this closed beta test. Everything else is really not great, from the UI to the combat to the voice acting. There's just so much going wrong with this game. And it's a shame too, because I can see what they're trying to do with this, but the execution is just not great. Let's start with the UI. This is a big one for me for some reason because this is a very missed opportunity. It is a very basic looking, very unintuitive looking UI. It just kind of really detracts from the overall visual experience from Drakantos because the pixel animations look great, but the UI looks almost like it was made by AI last minute. You know what I'm trying to say? Like if maybe the skill bar was more fantasized, maybe like a cobblestone outlook maybe, or maybe like little lanterns at the end of the skill bars, something like that to make it really make you feel like you're still in that world. Because when you look at the world of Drakantos, it looks great. And then you look at your skill bar and then you're just kind of like, oh, it's just a basic, really bad UI. I don't know if it's nitpicking, but there's many times where I feel like it's just not great. Especially for the menu, your inventory, looking at your inventory, looking at the artifacts, everything. It could really use a much, much better menu. Much better visuals in my opinion, because it just looks very cheap, almost knockoff-ish, right? And you kind of don't want that. Now it's time for the big boy topic. It is the combat, and this is where a lot of the beta testers were kind of turned off by, and I understand why. So this might end up being the biggest segment, but I'll try my best to really condense it in a short amount of time. So let's talk about the movement. The movement is probably where a lot of people get turned off by Drakantos. For me personally, I find that it is okay, but only in the context that they're trying to keep the combat in this game very old school RPG-like. Almost turn-based in a way, but still keeping that real-time MMO online gameplay. That said, I can understand why people say that it feels really bad, slow, very unintuitive. I totally get it. And if they can make adjustments to maybe reduce the movement latency and spell casting and melee attack latency, it would make Drakantos feel way better to play. The combat in this game is abysmal. It's probably one of the worst I've seen in an MMORPG yet. The difficulty in killing monsters literally is only two things. They are either Snorefest easy or they are Dark Souls level of difficulty. I promise you there is no in between. There are some unfair MFers in this game. I swear, like, there was one quest in the desert where you have to escort this researcher and those little bugs that burrow in, and then when they emerge, they do a large AoE for a lot of damage. That quest is actually almost impossible to beat unless you have someone that is able to tank and taunt those bugs. Because even if you have this bug on you with their attention on you, they will just for some reason randomly break aggro, burrow in, and then unburrow next to the researcher, dealing her a massive amount of damage. It's actually impossible to complete that task if you don't have anyone with taunt on your team, right? And with random matchmaking, right, it's just kind of almost like rough to finish. And that's just one of many very unfair encounters in this game. Now, by the way, progression is tied to how well and how many points you do during that adventure, by the way. If you die, you lose points. And if you lose points, you lose drop rate percentages on green and blue items, right? And there are many traps in this game that are kind of hard to see, but also impossible to react to in the case that you accidentally trigger them. The boulder being one of them, the bats in the cave, and the beehive are some of the most annoying traps I have ever had the unpleasure to witness in a video game. By the way, those traps, if you don't react to them, they will kill you in one go. Okay, so back to the mobs before I lose track again. So the mobs are also, one, I love their sprites, but two, some of them have some very, very unfair animations, especially during the early game. The aforementioned burrowing bug, the frogs are some of the worst offenders as well. There's a lot of balance issues for the early game grinding as well. Some of the rank 1 and rank 2 quests are outright impossible to beat unless you have a specific hero that is in your party or you are playing that specific hero. I think the scaling when people join your party is a little bit too crazy for the monsters. I actually found that it was much easier to complete missions on my own because the HP scaling really wasn't there, right? And it actually felt a lot more fair when I was just playing by myself. And that's not something you want, especially when you're advertising your game as like a 3-player cooperative experience. So they really do need to fix the scaling on the people joining your party. A big one is lack of mana management, which really makes combat just essentially you wait for your cooldowns and then you blow it all on the enemy and then you move on. It's fun at first, but then it really gets kind of boring because it just makes every conflict just one-dimensional. It's just easy. You just have the tank and then you just press all your buttons, you facepalm, and then you just let all your abilities go as soon as they're off cooldown. And it makes combat a little bit trivial, except for when it gets really, really hairy in an unfair way, like I mentioned before, like the traps and some of the mobs. I think artifacts as well is a really big one that is a missed opportunity. I don't know why they have limited uses. It's kind of insane how useless the ones that we get right off the bat. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot better ones as when the game fully releases, and I'm sure that they're actually going to be crazy OP, but right now I just don't really see why I can only put 4 barrels of poison down. It should also be on like a cooldown itself. Like it should have unlimited uses, but a longer cooldown in between each item use. So it also promotes build diversity, but without really limiting your character once you expend all the charges, because the missions run way longer than how much you can use the artifacts at this time. And then lastly, my con is not really combat related, but it's the AI voices. I know you guys have been talking about this a lot, and as AI is becoming more and more prevalent in our lives as of late, you can really show the difference between a very high quality voice actor and an AI generated voice actor. And it also really just detracts from the overall experience from the game. Now, I get it. They're not Wingion Games, which is the producer for this game, is not really a rich company. It's a very small indie Brazilian game company. So I understand them cutting corners, right? But, you know, they're also free to receive this criticism if other players try their closed beta test, because the AI generated voices, especially the one in the inn, there's like this maid that's always asking this guy, hey, what would you like? And no thanks, just immediately, or cuts her off. And it's just jarring. So, and that pretty much sums up my overall review of Drakantos right off the top of my head, you know, not really scripted or anything. It was a very short beta test, and so my thoughts on it may be a little short as well. But overall, this game really does need a lot of time in the oven still. And if this is going to be somewhat close to the released product, I genuinely think it's going to be another letdown and forgotten in about a couple months. I think the developers have been getting a lot of good feedback though from the players, because this game has a lot of potential. I can definitely see what kind of game they're going for, right? And if they really tighten up the bolts, it could really be a big hit on Steam. Or at the very least, it could actually be a really good mobile game. But they really do need to clean up the combat and the UI and the story and the voice acting just a little bit. And then they're golden. They have a golden egg in their hands. But of course, you know, they can only do so much. They're a small company. I'm still hoping for the best because I love nostalgic MMOs and RPGs just like this. All right. And I'm praying that they do well, because I know that they could do something good if they listen to the community feedback. So that is all from me. Again, I just want to throw in one last final thing. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm on the road to 300, and every support means so much to me, and it keeps me coming back and making more videos like this. So leave a comment down below if you like what you heard and what you see. And other than that, I wish you a good one.